this, and a lot of times people will say personal finance, when we're dealing with our money, is 90% personal, 10% finance. Quote Dave Ramsey. And that's a truth to it, right? There's a lot of humanity that's involved in our decision-making and processes. So I just want to help you guys tonight go through this process a little bit with me, where we kind of do a little bit of discovery, figure out a little bit about our story and our situation when it comes to money, because it's actually quite enlightening, and there will be times when you guys will actually be excited to talk to each other about this subject, which normally when it comes to money, people like talking about money. No, like that's a moot subject. As a matter of fact, it can be sensitive. So I'm excited about this. I love this topic. This is something that is near and dear to me. I presented on this Tuesday night, and so when everyone was getting out of there at 11 p.m., they were all just like, "This was awesome." I apologize if you don't know I'm joking there. That's my wife usually interjects whenever I'm with her, and she says that was a joke. So this is kind of, we're going to go through a little path of how we inform money feelings. What are money feelings? Well, money feelings are not related to our bank statements or our IRAs or how the market did today. Woo, right? Our money feelings, as a matter of fact, a lot of times are very disconnected from that. You would think, wow, someone who has more is probably happy with their finances, probably more financially satisfied. That's a term we'll use a lot tonight, and it's not the case. And so it's always been interesting to me. Whenever I was going through my studies for my PhD, I kind of latched on to that topic, because you would think people who are more successful with their finances would be so much more carefree with it, so much more relaxed, so much more like, yeah, I've arrived. And they're not like that, right? If you don't have much, you're worried about how the food is going to get on the table, the roof over your head, and maybe you guys have, some of you have been in that situation in life, as a child or as an adult. But even people who have more money, more problems, right? To quote a friend. And so what that means is you've got more, so you think more about it. And so we want to kind of dive into those thoughts a little bit, okay? And we're going to look through different paths to figure out a little bit more about our money feelings that we have had as a child or growing up, and some different thoughts on how our personality affects that, and how even our standing in society as we think it is affects those things. So really it's psychology and sociology more than it is finance, right? Anybody take college finance in here? Raise your hand if you took that class. Right, a lot of numbers, a lot of like ratio analysis and all these other things that relate to values. And this is more about like what makes us tick, or why do I feel this way, or like, man, I was like had a little bit of anxiety last time I opened my checkbook to look at things or something. And so we're going to talk about those kind of feelings and thoughts. And so first, why is this a big topic? Well, it's because money is more than just money, right? It's not. I'm not being shallow when I say that. Money is kind of a route to our heart. It is like a confluence. If you think about a river flowing, okay, it is a way that we can understand our relationship to different aspects of life. And so here you'll see it actually can impact our relationship with others. Think about people whose marriages, the number one cause for divorce, finances and stress with that. Think about how it affects our relationship with work. That's a big one we'll talk about from, childhood on. If you don't know or understand that work is associated with getting paid, a lot of people don't take it for granted. You'll find out a lot of people, especially nowadays, right, are not getting that lesson. So, our relationship with the world, okay, is oftentimes through this buying of things and experiencing things, and how is our money going to, all of that, okay? Our relationship with God is impacted by our finances. That's why if you even just open the Bible, you'd see thousands of examples of how money is used as an example of our heart condition. And then our self is the next one, right? We can really tell a lot about ourselves from this. And so, I appreciate it ahead of time. Thank you for, it's going to take like a little bit of candor, but like we also will joke a lot in this session because this is kind of a fun topic actually once we get into it. But I appreciate the fact that you got to kind of open up just a little bit about your story and your finances. Not like I'm going to have you sharing about if you've done this or that with your money or if you have this or that, but more about the story of that. So that's my goal here, and that's what this is summing up. Okay, I've got the handout the one that says on the front, it's like seminar presentation companion. That's where we're going to begin, and there will be a few things that activities we go through. And so like you've already taken the survey, that'll be the first thing that we look at. We won't look at that first, but it'll be in there, so it's for us to use. But we also have some other questions that we're going to ask you. And so before we do that, I kind of got a little bit of the definitions here, right? What is behavioral finance? It's like cognitive psychology. What is it about people and what makes them tick? Kind of combined with econ to provide the reason why we do things that sometimes might be irrational or not as rational as we might think we are. And so here are some questions that kind of drive what is finance. Are you ready for this? Behavioral finance. Raise your hand if you've ever been happy for a neighbor who bought a new car. Good for you! You guys have better hearts than me. I don't. Man, I need a new car. What? They bought a new car again? How can they afford that? That's me. How about this one? Have you ever felt good about selling a stock for a loss? Held on to that blockbuster stock all the way down, right? Because if you had ever owned it, maybe you should have liked to, you felt good about that if you'd actually sold. Have you ever put Christmas money you got for Christmas, birthday money would also be included, money you get for your birthday. Have you ever put that into your retirement savings account? Has anybody ever done that? Justin Gibson, you can raise your hand. That's what makes him a good financial planner. The rest of us in this room, probably not, right? And so we're going to talk on that subject. Why is that? Well, we'll get on that. We'll get there. To be continued. Have you ever done the math on prices per volume at the dollar store? Oh, there we go. I like it. What'd you find out?
It's not always that you buy a big container that the price is less.
It's kind of expensive, right? Like Dollar General, like there's how much feet of toilet paper in that roll? Like they get you. They're just hiding it from you. And I'm not even talking about how many of them there are. Have you ever had a second round of dessert that was honestly better than the first? That was really good dessert. How about third round of dessert that was better than the first? Raise your hand. All right, we're going to talk on that. These subjects are all part of behavioral finance. So it seems random and off the cuff, but we'll get there, okay? So I want you to answer a question for me, and this I do actually want you to put pen to paper. All right, if you flip to that second page of the companion, there on the top, there is a question. It gives you a lot of space, but you probably don't need that much. All right, but I do want to ask you a question because we're going to start by looking at our childhood experiences with money. But before we get there, I want to look forward, okay? I've asked a lot of students that I've taught in these, the 16 to 18-year-olds this question. So it's really interesting to me to look at a cohort that is a little bit wiser, right? And have aged a little bit, have more experiences. What would life look like if all your money dreams were realized today? And if you could, it could just be a few words or whatever, but go ahead and write down something if you don't mind. What would life look like? So the interesting thought on this is, first off, I've asked a lot of young people this question. I actually had an opportunity in a clinical setting, like doing research at college, to ask this question with some people bringing them in and using a process called solution-focused financial therapy. But really all it does is it gives us a clue and a little look into where exactly are our desires and goals. And it's interesting too, because your life, where you're at in life really matters, right? Well, you ask a bunch of young people this question. It's like, I just want a ton of money. Like, where does that fit in this category? Like, piles of money. I just want a Maserati. That's all, So, whoa, wow, what a goal, buddy. Good job. But if you're looking at more about freedom, You know, maybe that tells us a little bit about where you've come from. Maybe you've had a lot of feelings where you don't ever feel financial free, and that tells you something. Maybe you're turned the corner to the point where you're looking at legacy and giving it away, not just spending it for yourself or enjoying it, which that's good too. That's a good thing. You know, for other people, sometimes it's about decreasing the stress, okay? About doing away with some of these baggage that they might have in their life, right? So this is a great place to start, because we need to hold in perspective. We're going to come back to this question at the very end and kind of reassess, if you don't mind. And so, you know, but right before midnight, we'll get to that answer. Childhood experiences, okay, are huge. They impact so many aspects of our life. We are a mix of nature and nurture. Okay, just what percentage? I don't know. But anyway, nonetheless, the story of how we relate to money begins long before many of us can probably even remember. Okay? And so we want to take the opportunity to learn these stories as they relate to our money, to better understand why we have certain positive behaviors and negative behaviors, positive feelings, negative feelings, even when they're uncorrelated to our actual situation. And so this is usually when I start seeing this. You know what that is? That's the wife giving the jab in the ribs. Sometimes the husband giving the wife a jab in the ribs. Like, this is why you act like that with your money. Right? You never told me that story. So we're going to dive into this. As you were growing up, okay, when was the first time that you remember growing up you earned money? Go ahead and write that down there. It's that next second line, little box on the left. Making money should be usually very memorable.
Babysitting.
How much did you charge?
When I very first started, I got 25 cents. And when I stopped, I was getting $1 an hour. 25 cents an hour,
Wow.
50 cents an hour, and then I got $1 an hour.
So
You went up.
Financial freedom.
I'm going to ask you a question about that in a minute. Now, something always happens at this point in the seminar, and you guys are actually pretty quiet, but usually people start talking about it, they just can't stop, right? And so here we have the first example, babysitting, 25 cents an hour. I've got 3 kids at home. Would you mind? 25 cents an hour is a good deal if you're still on the table.
This summer, I went babysitting
For free, right?
for 6 kids from church for free. All day,
tell
from
me
9 to 5.
Don't tell me that. If you could, you know, amongst your little groups, go ahead and communicate with each other about what's your story. What was the first example you had making money?
Selling the horse at 75 cents an hour.
At the parking lot?
No, my dad.
You don't want to sell the cow.
You'd sell it.
He was a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Plowed the field.
You gotta sell the cow.
So the real question, how did you keep the raccoons out of the sweet corn patch?
I don't remember.
Remember shucking? Yep. Oh yeah. Man. I had friends growing up, they were all farmers, and so they'd go to town with a bushel, yeah, and just start shelling. Yeah. Yep. This time of the year, right? Gotta get out there and sell it. Man. Could go for some good sweet corn. My parents still grow it, but I hardly get any more, you know? All right, we'll bring it back in for the sake of time. Raise your hand if it was paper route. Right on, yeah. Mary did paper route, huh? Good for you. On the bike?
It was at the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Patient rooms.
Oh.
It was more elegant.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't throw. About babysitting is a common. What are some other things that we talk about?
He loved gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Broke a pony to ride for a guy.
Okay.
I think it was 8
Yeah.
years old.
Oh, wow. That's tough work. That's dangerous work for an 8-year-old.
Well, I had help from my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I get paid?
Yep. So this is formative stuff, okay? I hadn't thought too much about this question. For me, I actually, we're potty training a 3-year-old right now. It's going awful. But my first experience, my mom gave me nickels when I went pee-pee and poo-poo on the toilet. I know, big time. And it's funny, right? Because I have to, I don't know, most kids don't get what money is at that age. But I do know there was a snow cone man, and he'd ring the bell, and I'd run out and give him my 3 nickels, and he'd give me a snow cone. My mom would follow behind me and give him the other coins that it was really worth. But, that was my first story. It was pretty early on. I guess I was driven by money then. Pretty shallow kid.
Are you bribing your child to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, of course. How else are you going to do it? Skittles and M&Ms?
Stickers.
Snickers?
Stickers.
Oh, stickers. That would be healthier, yeah.
Yeah.
He's been binging on Skittles.
No, stickers.
Okay.
Stickers.
So that, any other things? What are some other stories that you guys have? Money. How'd you make it?
We cut corn out of
Okay.
the crop worth more.
Ah. And we've had selling sweet corn. I heard that one.
Soda bottles.
Picking up soda bottles. Like for recycling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 3 cents.
Oh, yeah.
You used to get a refund on
Yeah, all glass bottles had a refund.
Oh, yeah.
Soda bottles.
Yep.
You're too young.
your time.
Yeah, Hey, my mom made me smash our aluminum cans, and then we'd take them to the aluminum. I mean, we always had to smash them first. So, but you're right, not quite. So, these stories are really good though, because it helps us understand that connection, okay, between work and money and work and money. And oftentimes, I hate to say it's a generational thing, right? But our kids these days really getting that story. Is money related to work? Maybe not as evident, right? There's not too many 8-year-olds on bikes selling newspapers, mostly because there's not many newspapers or 8-year-olds on bikes. So it becomes a real thing, right? So it's good to ask that question. Let's dig a little further into our childhood money. What is a money habit you have learned to do from your parents? A good money habit you've learned to do with your parents. Go ahead. I would like to try to write that one down as well. And then while we're on the topic, I want you to think of a negative, a bad money habit maybe that they had that you've learned to avoid. Go ahead and take a minute and write those down if you could. So yeah, there's just so much to this, and so I could give you the money script inventory to kind of dig into this thought, right? Because it's not just about our actions. We just talked a lot about actions, but it's also about the beliefs that we're taught about how money originates. And so this little inventory we just took. Now would be a good time if you'd be okay with it. Pull it out. Let's look on that second page to see what your numbers are. So money scripts are learned money behaviors, but they're oftentimes subconscious. They go underneath the scene, kind of underneath the water, right? Like the iceberg idea. There's a whole much more underneath it than what's coming to the surface. And so this survey has identified 4 big ones. Now, there are lots of money scripts, but these 4 big ideas really kind of capture a lot of our thoughts and how they roll into it. And so really kind of what we always say is money scripts, these feelings we have from our past, plus our situation now makes our worldview, right? And our worldview is oftentimes how we see things happening ahead of us, how we see our future, how we see the world and interpret it, how we understand money, its relation to us. Should I save it? Should I spend it? Should I enjoy it now? Should I give it away now? Should I hoard it? All of that flows into this, right? So there are 4 of them, okay? And so I just want to look at this. As we look at this, it's easy to think there's 4 of them: money worship, money status, money avoidance, and money vigilance. Okay? you're going to get a score. Right, and it just kind of give you at the bottom the interpretation there a little bit. Usually the lower scores are saying like, hey, you're not really like too worried about money as a form of like worship, money worship. Like, oh man, I'm into it. I really like seeing accounts grow and bean counting. Money status, okay, about like, hey, I can create relationships with my money and I like the feeling of that. Okay? Money avoidance, like, meh. Money should be avoided. Let's not talk about it. You're superficial if you do. Okay? And then vigilance is like, hey, I can work hard, save a lot of money, and that's a good thing. And I'm going to fight, and it's going to be on my own I do it. It's easy to say, wow, of all of these, like, I hope I'm money vigilant. Raise your hand if that's the highest score you got, right? Raise your hand. Money vigilance, is that your highest score? Yeah, most everyone is. Hey, you came to a seminar on money and feelings. Like, it's definitely going to be it. But the truth is, if you're high on that, it's actually saying that that's an issue. It could be an issue in your life. Okay, so how can money vigilance be an issue? Well, if you see this, like, I can do it on my own mentality, that can actually get people in trouble. Okay? Granted, like, there are a lot of men in this room saying, John Wayne mentality is good. And in many things, spheres of life, it probably is, right? But sometimes, you know, you can be a little stubborn, and you can be all about how your actions are going to win the security of your family or your future. And sometimes that's not the case, right? Furthermore, okay, the money vigilant sometimes grow in stress and anxiety over their finances, even when they're perfectly fine. Okay, because you're going to see it through that you're going to be in a good shape, and that's not always healthy, right? Sometimes you can overcook whatever you're cooking. The cat, sorry, bad reference, the pig or whatever. So like my challenge, like with take Dave Ramsey for example, right? People will call in. They're all money vigilant. Like you're calling in to Dave Ramsey, unless you're just clueless. Like I got $400,000 in debt. Well, someone needs to yell at me. Okay, I got yelled at, right? Everyone else is already hyped up on anxiety and stress. Sometimes Dave can add to it. You know what I mean? Like you're giving, a druggie a little more. So you have to be aware of that. And that's the kind of stuff that this script does a good job of helping us understand. Okay? Because, man, there's a lot of people who are just money stressed, money worried. Maybe they should be, but probably not, right? Especially if you see the world, if you even put yourself in perspective with others, you realize, I'm actually doing just fine. You know, I've got a roof over my head. I've got fiddlesticks in my belly. We're doing pretty good. The money avoidant, typically, the money avoidant is an odd topic, right? Like you're avoiding money. Some people say, listen, I'd rather have love than money, right? Maybe that's a method of coping with the fact that you've grown up in an impoverished estate. And so a lot of people say that. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're usually tight with their family. But sometimes it's hard, right? Because you can make bad choices because of that. Some people who choose career paths in like social work or education sometimes will say this like, yeah, well, I chose, a career that's going to be like it's selfless. It is selfless to do that work, right? But it's okay. I'm not going to have money because of that. And it's like, well, you could too, like if but. You don't have to take a vow of poverty to go into those fields necessarily. Money status is like pretty easy, right? Usually you see people driving the nice cars and they want to live in the nice house. Status usually appeals to things that you take outside of your normal setting because everyone can see it. Not everyone can see your house, but everyone can see your car, right? Look at me. And then of course the money worship is like the true belief that money really does make me happy, okay? And it's kind of shines a light on you there. So if you're really low in one, or all of them, or many of them, sometimes that can be a challenge as well, just to be honest, right? Like, and these questions are meant to be a little polarizing. It's just the nature of it, like but it's something that we were born with. We then kind of grew up into a family that probably had those different feelings and thoughts. So, what informs our money feelings? Our childhood experiences do. Okay. And so these are all examples of that. Stories from seeing our parents at work, learning how money's treated or discussed, the model of spend or give or save in our family, we talked on that, spending expectations, and then the feeling of money greed or fear that are projected upon us early in our life, right? If you were growing up sometime, you might, or even like this a lot of times is the, elbow ribbing here. You talk about money, all of a sudden you feel this fear, this, anxiety that just grows, and then a lot of times that is the case for people, and we have to probably should push on that, right? Like, that's not good. We want to figure out a little bit about where it came from and why it's like that. So in our house, we're not perfect when it comes to like teaching our kids about money because it's hard and it's challenging. We try to be intentional with it. And so here's some examples. We use the word work in a positive light. This is my son's little work chart so he can get $1 at the end of the week. It's just chores, right? But work, right? Like, work is good. Work makes you money. He's super entrepreneurial. And he just has that naturally, which is awesome, right? Because entrepreneurism, did anyone say that? Like, your first way of making money involved, like, doing work that was like a business kind of thing? Even selling sweet corns like that. Were there some other people that sold things to make money? There's a lot of stories of kids in school that, like, go around, like, selling stuff. And that's the story. That's their in for business. Like, when I was a kid, I whittled this thing out of wood, and the other kids liked it, so I started selling them for $2 a piece and funded my Roth IRA with that money because it's earned income. But my son, he liked to make Legos, and Legos. He's like, I make a business with this. I can sell these free Legos you give me. They're not free. Anyway, $5. I bought that one for $5 because I'm just a schmuck. But he keeps doing this. Like, this was a few years back, but recently it's beads now. He did this for my wife. It's $1, but don't worry, friends and family discount. He only charged her 75 cents. It's a pizza. It's a little slice of pepperoni. There's got pepperoni pizza on there. So we try to encourage that. Man, that's great. Go around to your friends and see if you can make some money and pay for lunch with that. This is my daughter's save, give, and spend jar. My daughter name's Jetta. This is save, and this is give, and this is spend. She's a middle child. Can you tell? There's nothing in the spend jar. Yeah. And so that little visible, right, the visual aid is really big for kids to try to because you're going to give them $5 or something for, a thing. Another thing make the kids do is pick up walnuts in the yard. Like, hey, penny a walnut, buddy. Like, oh, okay. But then, for them to actually visibly be able to see it go into a spot is very powerful for them. And so, that's good, right? We're fostering these early experiences early on. You guys all have these wonderful stories of how you have learned, invaluable things from your childhood experiences. So let's flip the script now. All right, we've talked about how our childhood informs our experiences. Now let's talk about how the things we buy, especially the things that we want, not the things we need, inform our money experiences. So I've got some quotes. So we'll start with some quotes from a few of our friends. The first one up here, that's Kanye West, okay? So let's see what he says about when it comes to consumption and money in his thoughts. He said, money's not everything, not having it is. That's deep. Maybe. His second guy here, that's Daniel Tosh. He's a kind of an annoying comedian. He said, when it comes to this topic, we're going to get into the topic of money and purchasing of especially wants. He said, money doesn't buy happiness. Have you lived in America? Because money can buy you a wave runner. You ever seen a sad person on a wave runner? And then you can see his, very expressive face, trying to be sad, right? And it's like, no, I can't do it. It's fun. And then the last one, that's not Brad Pitt. That's Tyler Durden, a character in the movie Fight Club. The things you own end up owning you is this turning point in the movie where they start talking about how a character needs to kind of push against the consumer world we live in. And there's truth to that, right? There's a lot of people who get caught up in IKEA catalogs and Amazon wish lists and stuff that can really eat away healthy money habits. So there's also actually good quotes on this stuff. So here's a couple of good ones. The folly of endless consumerism sends us on a wild goose chase for happiness through material. In Ecclesiastes, some timeless words from King Solomon, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what that means is, as we grow in our life, as we grow in our wealth, as we grow in the things that we own, we grow in our expectation for it. And so we need more and more to satisfy us always, right? And it's this never-ending stop, we're gluttonous and we're just eating more because now I need more because my belly needs more, right? That is the challenge. And so the idea of consumption, this is usually when I lose people, so bear with me. We'll get through it pretty quick. There's a guy out there, Thorstein Veblen is his name, famous economist from the 1800s. classic look, right? He's sitting there thinking, this is the kind of stuff he wrote about. Don't try to read that. That's just gobbledygook. But he had this thought. He came around, started writing around the turn of 1800s to 1900s, and he was his thought was, this is the first time in all of human history where people have margin and excess on a mass scale. Okay? And there's a couple historical ideas out there if you're into that. Mass society grew, the leisure class grew, and he wrote a book called The Theory of the Leisure Class. Well, and in this book, he just basically said, listen, people are just consuming to consume because that's just what you do. It's part of the class expectation. It used to only be something that kings and queens could do, dukes and earls maybe, and now, because of capitalism, because of the growth of business and wealth, lots of people can do it. Well, that margin that created itself its own little monster, and he called that monster conspicuous consumption. I love that word, conspicuously, right, consuming. Like, this doesn't make any sense necessarily, but people just do it, okay? And so in many ways, this is good and bad, all right, because our capitalist system is built on the freedom to be able to go out and purchase the things that you want and need, right? Even if it means putting it on the card, I hate to say it. And so that is good. This system means that we aspire and compete. We have the ability to spend more and give more. We have the ability to enjoy our excess. We're not living in some socialist state that's dictating all these things to us, right? We have the freedom. We have the freedom to go out and grow the pie, okay? The cake. We had cake tonight. Told some people that's my tip if you didn't eat your cake. So I see some people left it. Appreciate that. We'll see if it's still there at the end of the night. But it also can be a negative, okay? The conspicuous consumption of our world leads to taking your cues from others, comparison and envy and covetousness, some long, age-old challenges that we have to overcome, right? And honestly, our world now is like more and more and more of that. Okay? It's like everything's doubling on over itself because we have more opportunity to spend with more products out there to try to get our attention. Marketers are out there digging into our psychology and the things we'll be talking about tonight to turn them on you so that you can buy their product, right? So we have to be aware of those because it is a reality. And so here's some examples of how consumerism works against us, okay? To sometimes make us feel maybe not so good with our situation even though we should. So the first one is, this guy's name is Dennis Diderot, going back further than Thorstein Veblen. This dude wrote the first encyclopedia. Wonderful social life, I bet. What do you think? I just like writing one paragraph summaries about things. I got a job for you. So he was a Frenchman, and so he wrote this story. It's called Diderot's Mirror. It's an example of this consumption idea, right? He goes out and he buys a mirror. He probably didn't buy many things, probably didn't go out much, right? Like, dude, literally, he's writing an encyclopedia. So he goes out and he buys a mirror, and then he looks in the mirror in his room, his old, probably kind of cloistered, dingy room, and he goes, man, no one told me I need some clothes. I needed a mirror to see that, right? So then he goes and buys the clothes, and he looks in his beautiful, the French blue, right? The baby blue. And he goes, man, my room looks like in shambles. I need a new bedspread. Goes out and buys the bedspread. Oh, I need new shams. Goes out and buys the shams. Oh, man. Better buy some curtains. Better buy, some more lighting to improve the look of things because now I have all this nice stuff. And it grows on itself, right? Like, that's the theme there. Diderot's Mirror is an example of how we're not satisfied because we just want more, right? And you buy the nice thing, and then the nice thing doesn't go with the dingy thing in your house. And now, next thing you know, I've seen an episode of I Love Lucy that kind of deals with that. I don't know if you guys have seen a couple of those. It's like, Ricky, I need a new, it's always bedroom set or a new couch. She always had a new couch in her. Big deal. Consumption example number 2, the hedonic treadmill, same kind of idea, but this one is like keeping up with the Joneses, not maybe if Diderot was in his room, this is outside of our room in our world, right? And so the human inclination is quickly, our expectation and our desire matches any increase in life situation that we've kind of grown to. So if we just start writing on this circle, desire and striving, obtaining, enjoying, just to adapt and desire some more, okay? And so that will get you on this thing called the rat race, right? Where you're just never really feeling satisfied with your work or your progress or where you've come from. If your 20-year-old self could look you right in the eye today and say, wow, what do you think they'd say? Wow, I thought you'd done better than this. No, they'd have probably been like, dang, look at you. Going to a seminar on finance on a Thursday night football, I got Pat Benson in the room. He said he wasn't going to come because it was Thursday night. I mean, it's the Jets and it's not exciting. Jets and Patriots, that's not saying much about my seminar. So here's an example of this. This is a lovely commercial I remember when I was a kid. Love it. When it works, I love it.
I'm Stanley Johnson. I've got a great family. I've got a 4-bedroom house in a great community. Like my car? It's new. I even belong to the local golf club. How do I do it? I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I barely pay my finance charges. Somebody help me.
Way to consolidate your debt. LendingTree.com.
All right.
Compete and you choose.
All that's true except the lending tree part. I have to say that's a requirement. So the challenge, again, is more than just we can buy more things, we can enjoy more things, we have more things out there vying for our attention. It's that we can also live behind the shroud of debt nowadays, right? Where you can make yourself look really good out there in front, where behind it's all just a charade, a little story of what can I finance? How much are my monthly payments? Right? Can I get another credit card? Will they let me? And that becomes the challenge. And so that is an example of the debt up to my eyeballs. He's happy, right? But he's probably hiding something. He might lose it at some point. So here's another example of how consumption works against us and our satisfaction, right? You ready for this? Okay. I asked the question, how many pieces of dessert are satisfying to you after your first one? Okay, and the Oreo example is the same one, right? How many of you guys are Oreo nuts? Anybody? Someone said they had Oreos every night before they go to bed in my last meeting. So I know you like an Oreo, but what if I gave you 2? Would you like that? Yeah, what about 3? 4? Okay, at some point, we're going to start trailing off. You guys really like Oreos. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I give you an 11th Oreo, is that really going to taste as good as the first? I hope you're saying no at this point, right? Probably not, right? It's probably you're going to get numb to it a little bit. It's like your nasal cavities. The sense of smell goes away. Your sense of taste goes away. It's just a bunch of brown and white mush at that point, all right? That is called the law of diminishing marginal utility, okay? And there's a lot of economic literature about Marshallian curves and how it goes down over time. But the truth is, your first dollar will satisfy you more than your millionth, okay? Your first Oreo will satisfy you more than your 15th, okay? And there's a lot of stories from that. And so you just have to be aware of that as a human being, okay? Because as we grow in our wealth, we have to understand that our satisfaction with that isn't going to necessarily grow as well. And man, what a wonderful example. Kahneman and Tversky are 2 Jewish psychologists. They wrote on a lot of these topics, though, and they said there's a magic number out there. It was $75,000 when they wrote a paper. They said at that point, right, your happiness with income starts really fading. That was like 10 years ago, so like $150,000 now, right, after all the inflation stuff. Bad joke, sorry. That's a financial planner joke. So what informs our money feelings? Not only our childhood experiences, but also our environments, okay? Our desire for consumption, especially the once in lives, really do get at us because you see other people out there, okay? Social media even hypes that up, right? Like you're experiencing places, you're going to go see things, you see other people doing the thing, and you're like, man, I'm stuck in Hannibal, it's wintertime, that sucks. But our environments oftentimes, okay, our spending fuels our expectations and aspirations for what our wages can fund. Okay, but examples of this are how we act as consumers. Our feelings are fickle, dependent upon those around us, more than our actual situation. And oftentimes you can find yourself working against your financial satisfaction if you really think that this stuff and the ways that you can consume are going to make you satisfied. This last point on these different topics usually are like research basis. Recognize these tendencies, find rest in your abundance. All right. Research shows blessing others with your the extra you have in life has been shown to actually decrease your desire for things and to actually purchase stuff. So like giving some of your money away will actually help right that ship, that desire in you. Right. If it's life is just about building bigger sandcastles, buying Maseratis, at some point it's going to get old. It gets old to Elon. It's getting old to Jeff Bezos. Bill Gates is giving billions away. It's like he's like over it. Right. And it's like, wow. You know, King Solomon had that same thought, right? The riches of the temple, and here he was saying, yeah, that's not really, it's all not all worth it, you know? What is worth it, right? Like, trust in God and obey His commandments. Like, that's where it's going to be. And so, giving can fix some of these problems that we talk about, even though we have a tendency to go through these different phases. Like, oh, what's going to, new Amazon box is coming today. Oh, I got it. I need to buy something else now. So something else is coming in the mail so I can do this face again, but then I get there and I'm like, buh. So anyway. Let's talk about our personality. Okay, this will be the third topic. At childhood, the second one just went over was kind of like our consumption and now our personality. So our personality about ourselves, usually when it comes to money, we think of two things. Am I a spender or a saver? So raise your hand if you think your significant other is a spender or a saver. Just kidding. But usually one of you or the other is going to say this or that. I've been in meetings where they've both said they're spenders. At least you should know. You should know your tendency, right? At least they knew that they are a spender. But it's not that simple, okay? And so this personality thing is not just about that. So the second little survey I gave you asked some questions about like spending. Really, it's about spender-saver mentality, okay? There are a lot of different ways you can figure out if someone's a spender or saver. For instance, some people sat down tonight and they genuinely were interested in eating their cake first, right? That would be an instant gratification thing. What do you think, spender or saver? Yeah. I like to set Lucky Charms in front of my kids, right? And that's the ultimate instant gratification versus delayed gratification experiment. What do you think? Instant gratification, kid, what do you think? Firstborn or secondborn? Secondborn. My secondborn is going to eat all of the marshmallows first. My secondborn is an instant gratification, right? So I imagine maybe someday she'll spend a lot. All right. She'll probably marry someone rich. It'll be okay. My firstborn, he waits. He picks around all the marshmallows. Cleverly picks around, right? And then at the end, what does he get? A savory, and they're kind of melty in your milk. He is a delayed gratification kind of cat. Right, and I don't know, maybe that's not really associative, but I always thought it's kind of like, that's how it works. But it's not that simple, it's not just spender or saver, there's too many variables at play. So let's look at some of these. Our Furnham Money Belief Behavior Scale, all right, is an example of that. So if you had done this second survey, appreciate that. It's a really simple one because you just kind of mark, where am I on the scale of 1 to 5? I don't like scales from 1 to 5 because it gives you the 3 option. 3s usually put you in the middle, and most people just answer C right down the line. But there you'll see some examples. It tells me I'm a saver or spender. I'm debt averse or debt willing. Possession focused or experience focused. How many of you are experience focused? Got one. You can be possession focused and experience focused. It's called a boat. How about this? Money envious or money content? How many of you are money envious? I'll raise my hand. I'm shamelessly will admit that I deal with that. Money envious. Man, you guys are awesome. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I might not come back. Budgeter or not a budgeter? Raise your hand if you're a budgeter. Not a budgeter. I'm just I'm a budgeter, but yeah. More not budgeters probably in our world. We build plans for people, guys. I know a lot of us aren't doing budgets. You guys are special though, not you. So yeah, I think this is helpful, right? It tells us a little bit of the fact that it's more than just spender or saver, right? You've got all these different variables that help us a little understand our personality, kind of like what's, our nature a little bit, our temperament that fits in those different categories. So it's interesting because it's not just about like those two things, because here's an example of this. This is a wonderful thing. We found this out watching a video from a group called Kingdom Advisors, and I've shamelessly stolen it. I'll give them credit though. Her name is Tatzel. It came out with this in 2002. It's called Our Money Worlds. And so there's 4 different things you could be. And so usually when people read this, they're like, this one speaks to me. Like I'm Enneagram number 6 and I am that one. So you're either high material and tight, or high material and loose, or low material and tight, low material and loose, right? So you can kind of see this is spender saver a little bit here, but it adds some different variables to it. So high material and tight really care about value. They seek after value. You're standing in the store and you're going to I'm really going to look over these different, you're reading the content list, right? To figure out how much water's in your shampoo. Yeah, I know that's probably you back there, right? They understand that prices sometimes are positive, right? Oh, it costs more, it must be higher quality. Personally, I never think that. This is more expensive. I'm not buying that, right? That's because I'm a low material, tight. I must be non-spender. I don't know. A low material and tight is someone who doesn't like to spend. They always think prices as negative. Oh, it costs more. That must not be good, right? Naturally happier if they're not buying things. A lot of ladies in this room will rib their husbands at this point. That's you, honey. Spending is painful. That's you, honey. Never buy the combo meal because you're living off the value meal. That's you, honey. You can be high material and loose. That's a big spender category, okay? You spend your money on nice things to feel connected to them, to yourself and others. Material things are like a way you enjoy your world, and you get much satisfaction out of the purchase and enjoyment of things. There's nothing wrong with this, but it can be troubling because people can go into debt because they just want the nice stuff. They're going to buy the nice new thing. Some of you might have kids in that category and drive you nuts. Maybe not. Hopefully not, but maybe. It's okay. It's all right though. They really do appreciate the world in a lot of ways that some people who are on this side can't. And then you have experiencers. Low material, not too worried about stuff, but they're loose with their money, right? They see money as a way to buy experiences and services that lead to their growth and development. They will spend the money. They want to go to the nice college, right? I don't care, Mom, $50,000 a year. I think I can do it. They tend to avoid acquiring costly things that anchor them to a location because they're aloof, right? Hey, I want to go to Hawaii and live, or I want to go see the world and things like that. So can't just put them in the box, spender or saver, right? We're growing our boxes, and yeah, some of these are really speaking to you. I can tell by your face. So not only is it about our temperament, but it's about how we're hardwired, right? Our personality, okay, as humanity, means that we're hardwired sometimes to think the wrong way about stuff. And so there's some great examples of this through a concept called prospect theory from our Jewish psychologist Tversky and Kahneman. And what they said is, hey, I got some questions for you, okay, that are going to illustrate this. Would you accept this gamble? 50% chance to win $150, 50% chance to lose $100. All right, who's taking it? Y'all ever go to Vegas? You got a Vegas shirt on back there. You got a Vegas fedora. Are you going to take the deal? Because that is one heck of an odd. You're going to destroy the table. You're going to destroy the house with those odds, right? 50% chance to win 150, 50% chance to lose 100. Why aren't we taking that deal? You don't want to lose it! Excellent. How about this one? Same idea. Would you choose to lose $100 with certainty, or a 50% chance to win 50, but a 50% chance you might lose twice that much, 200? All Right? Would you rather just give me $100 right now? It sounds like you're going to want to do that. Raise your hand if you want to just give me $100.
Lay it on the cake.
Might lose my licensing with those. Yeah, just lay it on the cake, please. Most people are looking at this and they're hating this. They're not even going to partake in this question, right? Because this is that you're looking at loss. Do we weigh our losses equal to our gains? Do we? No. Okay. The research shows 250% more on the downside than the upside. That's how much more painful it is to lose than to gain the same amount. We didn't get any phone calls today from clients that the markets were up 2%. One day, 2% up, no calls. But maybe if it was down 2%, right? Like, this is just the nature of it. Like, we are loss averse. We don't like it. We don't like losing. We want to hold on to what we have, protect it, right? It is like a natural primal instinct that we have. But we have to also understand it makes us make bad choices. Especially if we go to Vegas, we should take this odd, right? Just remember that, because if you play that enough times, you're going to win a lot of money, okay? And you have to kind of fight against that attitude sometimes in life. Okay, and our example of that is us working with clients in the market, right? The market is volatile, helping them understand we play the long game. There will be downs, but there will be more ups. And because of that, right, and the science behind it and the math behind it, we will do better, even if we really try to get ourselves in the way of it, right? Which we all try to do at times. 2 persons get their monthly report from a broker. A is told her wealth went from $4 million to $3 million. A bad week in the market. B is told her wealth went from $1 million to $1.1 million. Who of the 2 individuals has more reason to be satisfied with her financial situation? Anybody say A? All of us would say A. She's got like 3 times more than B. But why? Why? Because you see one person, it's all relative not only to, right, losing, but losing means a change in our state. And we always are comparing ourselves to our past. Right? And so if today's better than yesterday, darn right it should be. If today's worse than yesterday, oh, heavens, right? Like we're all in trouble. And so we have to realize that this is the way we're hardwired. And when it comes to our finances, it's not logical, right? So that's the challenge. So we have to kind of fight against that, push on it a little bit, stay in the market, breathe a little bit, but then also recognize that change is immensely important. I mean, you find this example all over the place. My phone today, now, it tells me that today is 5 degrees hotter than yesterday. Why? Because my relative experience is, what was it like yesterday for tomorrow, right? We live in the Midwest. We need to know what yesterday was like so today we can put on the right clothes. And so it's still hotter. It's mid-September. Heavens, right? That's dissatisfying. But that's how it works. We are always comparing ourselves to what? A recent event, okay? It's hard when you lose events, and we have change that's really negative and extremely impactful as well. And so this is not just a lesson in psychology, but also in counseling and therapy, because oftentimes people who have had that instant when a life has changed, a lost loved one, or something else that has happened, where you're comparing the way things have been even recently, and it's really hard, right? Like you have to figure out how to cope with that and adjust and change that. So all that being said, there's other aspects of how we are hardwired to think the wrong way when it comes to our money. Here's one. Okay, I'd ask you the question, if anybody other than Justin Gibson in this room had put money into a Roth or savings, retirement savings from money that was given to you. Okay, Christmas, birthday money. All right. The truth is, okay, that concept is called fungible. Is money fungible? Fungible just means a dollar's a dollar no matter what. All right, but we don't treat it that way. Where it came from really is important for where it goes. Okay, I'm giving out all my tricks tonight. Tell you what. So what that means is this, right? People tend to see money with different lenses, okay? Depending on its account or where it comes from. And that's not really necessarily the truth or case for it, okay? Because a dollar should be a dollar. So we spend the money that's supposed to be spent for fun, and that's good. You should do that with your Christmas money. Birthday money, right? Lottery winnings. Powerball winnings. Why do you think those people never end up staying wealthy?
Because they didn't have good money habits before they got the money.
Yeah. Money that comes quick, in the door quick, goes out the door quick, right? And that's that example there, right? They have no skin in the game. They haven't worked and sweat over that money to produce it and earn it and grow it, maybe like some other people have, right? So it comes in quick, at least quick. That's the challenge with inheritances, right? The Vanderbilt story or the Carnegie stories, they build up this great amount of wealth. One generation destroys it, literally the next generation. Your kids can't live off just $1 billion anymore? Come on, people, right? And so that's the challenge right there. The fungible, money's not fungible. It really is dependent upon where it's come from and where that'll tell you where it's going. Anchoring and framing is another big concept in the world of finance that unfortunately we get things wrong with our money a lot of times with that, right? And so what it says is we anchor and frame, like we frame ideas and we're anchored to certain concepts even though they're not maybe necessarily as relevant as what we would think. So here's an example of that, right? Recent Olympics. You know some of the saddest people in the Olympics were silver medalists? Why were they silver medalists? They're the second best in the world at a thing. Why would they be sad? Because you're first loser. That's a twist. I like it. But it's true, right? They aspire for gold. Even Michael Phelps, with all his golds, he gets silver and he's like, throw it in the trash. Okay, these people wanted gold. They're looking up that pedestal. You know some of the happiest people in the Olympics are bronze medalists? Why is that?
They made it.
Yeah, I'm on the podium. The rest of you aren't, right? I made it. You didn't. Looking down at all you guys, hundreds of you maybe. And so that's the idea, right? It's all reference points. It's not reality. Not reality based. And so that's what this point is telling us. The cost of a wedding ring is another anchoring effect. Companies love to have us anchor to ideas, of their ideas, right? So Kay Jeweler has helped establish an expectation for how much a gentleman should spend on his fiance's wedding ring. And he guessed how many months, they tied it to a month's pay, right? So it's not like, yeah, how many? Yeah, 3 to 6 months. Do the math on that. Come on, that's crazy. Right? When we were looking at wedding rings, my wife and I walked into a Hellsberg diamond. That was a mistake. But then after that, she goes, can I see she didn't know anything. Can I see a carat? And I'm like, 1 carat? Oh. I was a teacher at that point. 3 to 6 months, that's like way more than that. She looked at it though. She said, this is gaudy. Right? So, yeah. But that's what they say, right? They make the rules. Hallmark makes all those extra holidays. That's the idea there. Framing effect is the same kind of concept. We're not anchoring to an idea. We are framing with it in a lens that makes us understand kind of the world through a frame. We're going to go through that one kind of quick. Here's an example. Read after me. A, B, C. Read after me. 12, 13, 14. Yeah, you see it? Yeah. B and 13 are the same, right? So we're like taking partial pictures, putting them together, which is like our natural tendency. We want to find patterns, but sometimes that's tough because the framing of things really matters. All right? When you go to the store, they will frame, you go to the grocery store even, what are they framing for you in this little periphery right here between 4'6" and 6'4" probably? What is that? That's name brand Oreos, right? Where are they putting store brand? At the bottom. That's framing. That's a framing effect, right? Like we are seeing this in our frame, and it's just easier just to grab those, Now if you buy the store brand, you'll probably like, by the time you get to the 4th Oreo, you'll be like, the Oreos, it's like 8th probably. So, all right. What informs our money feelings? Again, our childhood, our environment, our personality. Okay, our personalities do that. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not, right? That includes our God-given temperaments. Our personality includes the way we've been shaped by our environment. Research shows that those with a greater sense of control in our world right? Freedom and control to be able to do things you want. Growth, sense of growth. Next day is going to be better than today, I promise you, right? By the way, what's a good net worth for a person? People come in sometimes, they're like, what should my net worth be? More than yesterday. That's a good answer, right? Sense of growth. That's serious, right? Autonomy and freedom, mastery, right? I have control over this, okay? And then trust. Those people have higher levels of financial satisfaction. Untrusting people tend not to invest in the market, just to be honest, right? So like, and it usually doesn't play out. Like you have done better if you had been, at least historically, right? So that's an example. All those things are different characteristics that we that really impact who, you know, how we're shaped, how we're shaping our financial picture, how our money. What is the title of this again? How our feelings and our money shape our financial reality. Commercial people get us. Like they get us every time, right? So here's another example of a commercial that's going to lead into our next idea. Okay? Anybody remember the old Volkswagen ads?
Mr. Jones and Mr. Krempler were neighbors. They each had $3,000. With his money, Mr. Jones bought himself a $3,000 car. With his money, Mr. Krempler bought himself a new refrigerator, a new range, a new washer, a new dryer, a record player, 2 new television sets, and a brand new Volkswagen.
It's a good commercial, isn't it?
Now Mr. Jones is faced with that age-old problem. Keeping up with the Kremplers.
I love it. It's so good. It is our comparison desire. And they play it through not just like, hey, comparing your car to your neighbors. They compare it to, did you get as good of a deal as your neighbors, right? Us people that like to spend are like, I wish I had the better car. People who don't like to spend are like, but I got the better deal. Everyone's comparing themselves to each other. But what I'm going to teach you here in just a short, quick second is that is a sucker's game. Comparison is the root of many evils. All right? Our friend says, I got to get one of them, right? Thousands of daily examples of how we use our relative situation in life. Okay? And I'll tell you, I got like 6 minutes left. So, always want to mention that whenever, yeah. Have you ever been in a movie like, it's like, this is how many, like, what's the, you can't move the Netflix bar on it, but, you know, it's going to be quick. So, relative standing. Okay, what is my relative experience? How am I relating to others? Right, that stuff really matters. And so there's a big concept in our finance world that says sometimes this is more important than actually how we're really doing. All right, which is kind of what our conversation began with. And so an example of this was like my son and I went fishing. We went trout fishing down at Montauk Springs a few weeks ago, and everyone's catching fish. My son's catching fish. I'm helping him with his line. And then we get to the, a couple hours in, and, he's tired of being in the waders, and it's like, Dad, you didn't catch anything. I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't notice, Like, of course I noticed. Everyone's catching fish but me. Right? My relative, if no one else was catching fish, I'd have been okay with it, right? Like, I was okay with it because I was helping him. At least that was my argument. But yeah, that's a relative experience. When you buy a new car, what do you realize? You start driving it and you go, oh look, I have one of those, I'm driving one. Oh look, there's another one. Oh look, that is a perfect example of how nothing's changed, right? Except for my perceptions have changed. Now I see it all over the place. And I gotta get myself a new car. Everyone's driving this dang thing. So our world, in our world of money, so much revolves around our relative experiences and feelings with others. Okay, my wife in her high school yearbook wrote something, and it kind of began with a title, "Comparison Kills Joy," because we have a difficult time, even me, my wife, our family, like we like to compare ourselves to others, and it never ends well. We're always just miserable when we do it. And she just reminds me of this quote, right? And so that's what this big idea is, that we've got basically ways that we look at other people. We can look at other people and their situation. We can look at other people and their money. Look at other people and say they get more vacation, more time off, blah, blah, blah. Or we can look at ourselves and say, how am I compared to my parents? How am I compared to my life as a child? Is the world really getting better, or are we just going to hell in a handbasket? Right? And so that is ultimately, okay, the quickest path to financial unhappiness, anger, and frustration is us using comparison methods where we're just blindly looking at others and going, man, they got it figured out. Well, you don't know that, right? Someone's driving a $100,000 vehicle. You think that they're successful. They're financially successful. That's actually an example of them spending $100,000 on a vehicle. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, right? But should we compare ourselves to them? Probably not. And so that's the challenge here. There's so much research on this, right? One quick path, if you're ever a hirer, if you ever hire people, make sure that they get somewhat paid the same as their counterparts at work. University of California doesn't do a good job of that. Someone wrote a paper on it, and those people were super unhappy when they figured that out. I'm getting paid the same to do that, and this person's getting paid how much? Really unhappy. That's what this article, a whole journal article was written on. Keeping up with the Joneses, okay? If we found ourselves in if you live in a nice neighborhood, and you live in the, what do they say, the smallest house in the nice neighborhood is a good deal, right, for your real estate value. Right. But it's very bad for your relative standing with others. You actually have less satisfaction because you see all these other things, and you're like, I live in the 3-bedroom over there, right? And they're in the 9-bedroom over here. And so that's what this whole article is about, right? You're actually ranking your income ranking in your neighborhood with your other friends. It's probably just better not to live in a neighborhood, to be honest. Keeping up, moving down the mobility ladder. If we are to look at our life as a ladder, right? And these are the different rungs on how people are doing in terms of moving up or down. What do you think? People that constantly are moving themselves down the ladder are definitely sad. And people that move themselves up the ladder of mobility, like from going from a poor household to becoming super rich, right? Rags to riches, the American dream. Does that lead to satisfaction? It should, but it doesn't. And you know what? It only took me 7 years to figure that out. That's how long it took me to get through my PhD. All right, and I had to write a dissertation, and it took a very long time to get the answer, because the truth is that I had assumed surely someone who starts off poor and ends up rich is going to be really happy. They weren't, right? And it took my professors like yelling that at me before I finally wrote it in my paper. Okay? Also, did anyone in here graduate from a Wisconsin high school in 1957? I've been looking for one of them. If you ever find one, let me know, because that was the research was based on a Wisconsin. It's called a longitudinal study. They asked the same question of people, which is kind of interesting, right? Most surveys are just like today, answer these questions, send you off. This one did the same thing, asked the same questions over and over, like for 50 years, every 5 years. They interviewed all Wisconsin graduates, all 11,000 of them, from 1957. And it's pretty interesting, right? Because you get a real true feel on this type of ladder stuff like we're talking about, right? People moving up or down the ladder. And so that was my attempt to trying to figure out things. And I learned that you can really get lost in a question for a few years even sometimes. So, but there is an answer to this, right? And that is this: comparison does affect financial satisfaction. It can make you less satisfied, but it doesn't really have the power to make you more. Don't compare yourself and your situation to others. And so it goes back to really the first question that you asked, right? If you woke up tomorrow and all your financial dreams were realized, what would they look like? Okay, because actually the truth is oftentimes we look at the lens through our neighbors, through all these different avenues in our world, instead of focusing on really what is our heart goal and desire, right? Furthermore, how can I do those things that are beyond me and beyond my purpose, right? Seeing the legacy transferred to my kids in the right way with those lessons as well, not just the money. Then also, of course, seeing, maybe God's kingdom bettered, because, things like that that are beyond just bean counting and building sandcastles and buying Maseratis whenever I ask my high school students that question, right? So I hope that that is a little bit enlightening, right? I hope it's a good process for you. You know, my actual conclusion is really just a bunch of questions. What have you learned about yourself? When you go home, oftentimes I've learned that people like to talk with their spouse about this whenever they get out in the car. It's like, oh yeah, honey, that's why you're so stingy. The next time you think, if I just had more money, be reminded of our mirror, treadmill, or ladder Oreo illustration. Ask yourself, if I really had some more money, would that stop me from asking if I just had more money? And in the end, you know, okay, who do you compare yourself to? Hopefully you're looking for the right goals in the right places and starting from that vantage whenever you consider your personal financial story. Proverbs says it best, a tranquil heart is what we're probably desiring here when it comes to our finances, right? Not something that's hopped up on anxiety or stress. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bone rot. And so here's some extra things. These are examples of books that are good reads on this topic. This is The Year of Living Danishly. The Danish are some of the happiest people in the world. You know what they don't do? They don't do conspicuous consumption. They hate buying things for social status. It's rude in their world. So like, it's an interesting book because that kind of explains that story, why the people in that country, in that area, might be a little happier than a lot of people who, us Americans who do that. Paul David Tripp's Redeeming Money. There was a quote in here about that, but just an excellent heart check book. Brian Fickard wrote a book called Becoming Whole. Phenomenal. And then Psychology of Money is more about like that when we start talking about those win or loss, or, you know, would you rather lose money or gain money? Would you rather give me $100 or not? That's kind of this idea of how it's related to investing. So that's all we have tonight. Love to talk with you many more. If you have any questions, feel free to come and grab me. But thanks for coming.